Hi, folks. Welcome in. If you missed our show on Friday, I covered the great debate by Candace Owens and Andrew Wilson that I'm sure you've probably seen by now. And the comments were amazing. Over 650 for this one video alone. And I really do appreciate that. It makes a big difference when we have engagement like that from the audience. And I love hearing back from you, both positive and negative comments, depending on who you were rooting for. And we're going to get into that in just a second. We also want to read some comments that were going on X, some back and forth that was happening there. I know a lot of you are not on X, so I want to kind of get you caught up on that. And I also want to review the latter half of the debate. In Friday's show, we just talked about pretty much the first half of the debate, and I want to get into the second half this time. And I know a lot of you wanted that, but I didn't want to make the video too long. So let's get right into it. I'm JP, and this is Truth Probe, and I appreciate y'all tuning in. So let's get straight into it. Some of the comments from the show on Friday were pretty typical, and this is typical of all of the hundreds of comments that came in. Imali Thompson 7964 says, debate was lost when he said he was 85% convinced that Tyler Robinson shot Charlie. Right below it, Mormonetics, Andrew literally said he was 75% sure Tyler was guilty. That's not overwhelming, that's reasonable doubt. He ceded the win to Candace right there. And Baron Coleman said the same thing. If you're 75% to 85% sure of your position, that is the definition of reasonable doubt. So Andrew did not do a very good job of defending his position, because he was supposed to say that he was overwhelmed with the evidence and he was supposed to defend that position. Candace was supposed to kind of show us or back up why she thought Tyler Robinson was a patsy. That was the whole idea of the debate. Honestly, neither one of them really did a great job on keeping it on point. Both of them were kind of off in the weeds and going in all directions at times. But let's just get started here first by going through a couple of the X comments. And we'll start off by going on Candace's feed here, just to kind of get you caught up. This is really going back to Friday later in the day, and then Saturday and Sunday, just kind of to get you caught up on that. Candace writes, and she's asking Andrew this question: did you drop the actual text message on your show as promised? You premiered a never before seen text message from Charlie, but we noticed that it remains never before seen. So she's saying, strange way to premiere it, but we are all looking forward to seeing it. I don't think she's going to let up on that. I think this is something that Andrew probably needs to drop. If he read it in front of millions of people, eventually some people are going to want to see that, myself included. Candace is responding to Anna Kasparian. Anna writes, I could be wrong, but first murder is usually distinct from aggravated murder, with the latter being narrowly defined and with more severe capital punishment. It varies state by state, but there is usually a difference. Candace writes, he didn't even bother to read the defense filing for dismissal, which was published less than 48 hours before the debate. Mind you, 3 out of the 7 charges against Tyler Robinson were described in detail there. And yes, murder with an aggravator is massively different than a murder charge. It carries a death sentence. And she goes on to talk about how Andrew did not know that, and that he believes the evidence to be overwhelming, but he doesn't bother to read the court filings. And she says clinical retardation. And then we go up a little further. We see somebody posted, Andrew Wilson was a little shiny. Dude was sweating so bad, I was worried he was going to slip out of the chair, with a smiling emoji. And Candace says, okay, just to respond to the gayness, no, I do not employ a full-time glam squad. No, I have never employed wardrobe. PBD can confirm this. Between takes, I took care of myself by applying lip balm. I guess he was getting accused of having a full-time beauty squad running around her during the breaks and trying to freshen up her look. I don't think that happened. Andrew says it was going back and forth that AI would say that Andrew won this, and Andrew was promoting that himself. He writes, every AI source will say that I won. That was never in question. Specific AI programs built for this purpose, judging debates, will also say so. The polls are simply a reflection of who has the larger audience post-debate. During the debate, I won those too. Okay, so that's his opinion, and then Candace comes back with, I can't tell if this is parody. Bro lost so badly that he's bringing in his robot friends to tell him otherwise. Okay, and so that I want to agree with that, I think. Candace also writes, she's responding to the Un-F America tour. It says, this is the moment that will be remembered from the entire debate. Andrew Wilson was asked to name one charge against Tyler Robinson. he couldn't. Then Candace writes, the craziest part, it wasn't really supposed to be a gotcha, hence me asking which one. I felt he severely wasted viewers' time with the painful Erica white knighting, and I actually wanted to debate him on the substance of Utah's law regarding the aggravating factor. And she goes on to say more, and she says, and this is who TPUSA brought in to debate train their students. Obviously, she's saying that she won hands down. Andrew really didn't do anything amazing there. Ian Carroll had a great breakdown of the entire debate. It's a long video, but it's a very good breakdown. He does play the video at double speed or 1.5 speed or something. It's a little sped up to try to get through it, and it's still 4 hours. So I think it's pretty in depth, and I like watching his coverage of these kinds of things. Candace says this is only made funnier by the fact that there was no contract clause preventing me from asking questions or any contract clause which allowed him to pepper me with questions uninterrupted. He just randomly crashed out and made that up. I sensed he was emotional, so I just allowed it. I'm just a nice girl, she says. So that kind of gets it caught up to where, as of about 15 hours ago, she posted that. Andrew Wilson, they've been posting all kinds of things on X. I'll play this short little movie for you that somebody made.
Wait, I can explain!
Shabbat Shalom, Andrew.
What?
We invested a lot in you.
I was having nicotine withdrawal, the chair was uncomfortable, I barely slept, my foot was—
Silence!
She asked you to name one of the 7 charges. You said positive evidence 47 times.
It was a framework!
47 times, Andrew. Bring me the jar.
No. No, please, not the pickles!
Okay, that's pretty funny. I like the foot shaking nervously up and down. I really would look forward to Spidey's evaluation of the body language of both of them, actually, not just Andrew, just to kind of see what his perspective is of the way they were acting and their behavior and their body language. I always like to see his reviews. Andrew had a lot to say also on this on X, and he went back and forth. And of course, he's saying that he won hands down, and I don't understand how he would think that. I would be quite embarrassed on some of the things if I were him. We're going to get into that. I'm going to go through it right now. So we got through on Friday. On Friday, we got through about an hour of the debate or so. And I did point out the big factor, which was that he couldn't name a single charge. That was really important. But I want to get into the rest of it now. There was a lot of back and forth on social media about PBD and whether he did a good job, bad job. He asked too many questions or didn't ask enough. I saw all comments. And I kind of went through it just to see how often he spoke and interjected himself in there. And it was a good amount, actually. There were probably more than 10 times that he got in there and either asked a question or moderated in some way. But there were some times that I wished he would have stepped in when he didn't. And other times I wish that the topics would have been more scripted maybe or more poignant in talking about structured points, because it seemed like they were just going off into the weeds many times here and there, not really following any outline at all. And, it's like there was nobody there to kind of steer them back to the question or to if there even was one, because many times they just go off into a tangent. So so I don't want to play too many things by PBD because I feel like he did a fair job. I really don't have any problems with that. Let's just get started with about an hour into the debate, and Candace says they're talking about overwhelming evidence, which is a big theme in this whole thing. And let's just take a listen.
Okay, so yeah, I used basically 3 pillars for the totality of the evidence. Okay, so if you want to know exactly what those 3 pillars are, this is going to be the testimony with the text messages and the confessions. This is going to be the physical evidence. And this is going to be the totality of the summary of the case, okay? Mm-hmm. So right now we're focusing on one of these pillars in my defense, which is fine. I understand that I have to defend my claims as well. So when we're talking about the messages themselves, they seem totally valid. I have no idea why they wouldn't be valid. And I have not heard any good explanation for why it is that these messages should even be questioned. The defense hasn't questioned them as far as I'm aware. Nobody has actually questioned that these messages came from Robinson to date, except perhaps you and and other people who are kind of in that camp. But why should I question these exactly? I'm not sure.
Okay, so first let's just go over legally what the point is of a probative hearing. The defense is not they're not there to say or to argue or to defend themselves at all. They have to address what is being presented by the state, okay?
That's it. That's it. In a nutshell, that's everything right there. They weren't there to argue like they would in a normal trial. They were there only to present and to look at the probative evidence that the prosecution was presenting.
So they're not here to then say, let me give you an explanation for these text messages.
Agreed.
The relevant portion of what the defense did do was actually before we got to the preliminary hearing. I had mentioned that it was initially supposed to be scheduled for some time in May. They asked for an extension. That reading through those filings of why they were requesting an extension and why I actually believe their extension should have been granted, because they did not receive discovery on their text messages. That was one of the reasons. There were many reasons why they wanted to have an extension.
Andrew argued this and said that they had received everything, and Candace eventually won this point where they said that they had not received all of the evidence that they needed. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the confession.
Head-to-head with themselves. Like, he wanted to get away with it, so he thought the best thing to do would be to text a full confession of what he did, down to what I didn't even remember, saying, yeah, and that's also me in the surveillance footage. It felt a little too on the nose. These messages feel off, and yes, you are allowed to have an intuition, you are allowed to have a sense and just go, this is very weird.
Okay, so we get the point. And also, isn't it true that the text messages didn't have any timestamps on them? I mean, wouldn't that be a big reason why you would want to, like, they needed to be authenticated? I would think that would be a huge question that I would have regarding those text messages. And I'm sure that it'll be addressed eventually. The comment that Candace makes about it, the text messages sounded like something from a Jane Austen movie or book, was pretty funny. Let's take a listen to that.
But my point being is just that, first, it's a general sense of why people had a reaction to these messages that seemed like they were written by Jane Austen rather than like a kid who games and writes catch.
Yeah, but do you see how that's intuition?
That is. I just said that.
Yeah, but when it's that obvious, it becomes actually a little bit more than intuition when it's that obvious. To me, it seems like it is.
Yeah. Just parking aside the intuition of just something feels wrong here, which you should follow your intuition. You should actually do that.
At least respond to a little bit of this. So the first thing is like when people bring up the COVID vaccine, not trusting the COVID vaccine en masse was the science. That wasn't just intuition. That was the science.
Okay. All right. And then moving on a little bit more with the text messages.
You took a picture of the text messages, and we are being given these text messages to review. Crucially, Kathy Nestor said, I have not even been given access to my client's phone. Maybe he didn't send those messages. Could there be someone who logged into his Discord? Could there be someone who logged in to his Apple? I want to know if that message actually was generated from his iPhone when he was waiting to retrieve his, rifle, hoping that the pooch doesn't have a bad sniffer, like just weird messages. I want to make sure that, yes, it was actually him. He was holding his phone and his boyfriend didn't just log in to his computer when he was home. Lance was his...
Yep. So that's absolutely true. I'm sorry. I clipped that in the middle to kind of jump ahead a little bit, but that in essence, that was the point. And I agree. I totally agree with that. I think a pooch with a bad sniffer, I don't even know what that's all about. But I do know, I speak Spanish fluently, and I do know that there are those words that you never use in language and in English as well. And it just sounds like somebody wrote it that's not that familiar with English, in my opinion. All right, and let's go a little bit further up where Andrew they're talking about the parents turning in Tyler and going back and forth. And Andrew says, do you have kids? Wouldn't you do anything for them? That's his argument.
You have kids and you love them more than anything.
I do.
If it was the case that you thought that your kid was innocent, wouldn't you be out telling everybody and their brother that you thought that they were innocent? And also, wouldn't you maybe recant and say, hey, he didn't actually confess to me. He didn't actually. None of this happened the way that the state is presenting it. What would have?
No, you wouldn't. Your lawyers would all be telling you, do not speak to anyone. You could wreck this whole thing. You could make it so that he goes to jail for the rest of his life or worse. And that is appealing to our emotions or the emotions of moms in general. And I really think that's a bad strategy on his part because this guy, moms don't like him. Women in general don't like him. I don't think anybody likes him, to be honest with you. But especially women. And as part of his brand, and I don't think he's going to win any appeals to like on an emotional basis. So staying with the parents and the sources that Candace has been using and that she has, Andrew's trying to attack that by saying, your sources are, we just have to, it's a trust you bro type thing. And she's coming back by saying, well, but I have credibility with my audience. I have proven, and honestly, with more than her audience, she's proven herself by dropping real text messages after other people came out and just plain lied about them. And she proved them wrong, and she did it by dropping real evidence. And that's what builds credibility with an audience or with people. Let's listen.
You gotta watch the show, right?
Yeah, no, how do you know that?
I had a source within the Robinson family.
You have a source, an anonymous source, of course. So there's no way for us to verify that what you're saying right now is actually even true.
Do you find it to be reliable hearsay?
No, I don't find it to be reliable at all. It's just a source.
She's pointing out the hypocrisy of saying, "Oh, we just have to trust your sources," but we're taking reliable hearsay in the prelim trial as fact, because that's not the way it's meant in the trial. But Andrew's trying to argue that was presented in court as a fact, and it really wasn't. It hasn't been proven at all. They talked about the Mike Mitchell and the guy that supposedly turned Tyler Robinson in, and his role in this whole thing, and how the police wrote the reports up. Was the report just a summary of a conversation that happened with the mom, the dad, and Mike Mitchell, or was it something where did they actually interview the parents individually and Mike Mitchell and take statements from them all separate? That's the question. So let's take a listen to this.
Who you just brought up is Mike Mitchell. Mike Mitchell is the biggest unknown in this entire case. So when the person wrote up the report that night, and it was Brian Davis who wrote up what became the charging document. I think it was 4 a.m. in the morning that they got up there. So he's basically saying, we all spoke to a bunch of people and here's the information that we got, right? We've not seen that. So it could have come from Mike Mitchell. Mike Mitchell could be saying... I
don't know how this negates the point, though. Why wouldn't
truly
the
negates
parents...
the point because you don't have a statement from the parents.
Yeah,
you are going...
Why wouldn't they just correct
it's not correct.
The parents would not just run out and correct it. They're not going to go out on CNN and give an interview that could doom their son to the electric chair. They're just not going to do that. And he keeps arguing this point that has been it's not a good point, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think about this, but I don't think his arguments are not strong. It feels to me like he's arguing based on the points that just kind of naturally come up. Like maybe he does have some memorized talking points and things in his head, but it just seems like every point that comes up, he just tries to argue it, like being wrong. And I guess that is the point of a debate, but it just doesn't feel natural to me for some reason. I don't know why, it just doesn't. And they start talking a little bit more about Tyler's parents.
Yeah, so what I'm saying to you is that 3 people got interviewed on that night. Mike Mitchell got interviewed, Amber Robinson got interviewed, and Matt Robinson got interviewed. Of the 3 of them, only one of them actually wrote a statement, which was referred to in this preliminary trial. He came in, I believe, in March, Mike Mitchell, and he wrote a statement, which I find to be very shady that they decided to bring.
But why aren't the parents disputing that?
No.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense, what he's saying. I see the road that he's trying to go down, but it just... To me, I wouldn't be, if my kid was on trial for something like this, I wouldn't be running out to news media outlets and trying to give them my opinion or anything like that. I don't buy that. I wouldn't do that.
For death.
If I thought that my kid was in any way, shape, or form going to be up, you couldn't shut me up. Or my wife, she would be like, that's not true. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I don't agree. I don't agree. So let's move on to the next little bit here.
That's not the text message.
They never presented it. The state never put it on.
Yeah, they didn't. The defense could easily still have presented this. Yeah.
No.
They could have said they're
no.
No, they're not allowed to. Are you sure?
In a preliminary hearing.
See, this is Andrew not being sure. He really doesn't know the answer to what he's arguing, and this is what he looks like when he says no. No, are you sure? He's not just saying that because he knows the answer. He's saying that because he doesn't know the answer. That's what this face looks like right here. It's obvious to me, but he's bluffed his way through probably many, many debates. And I'm sure he has his little techniques that he's using, but he's going to try to find out the answer before he goes too far with this.
Yeah.
The defense is engaging with whatever evidence the state decides to put on. They did not put this on as evidence. Brian Davis was up there.
So they're not allowed to present anything?
They're responding to the state's evidence.
He's asking because he doesn't know.
Are they allowed to present anything?
They are allowed to say...
Like if there was a conspiracy that they could prove right then and there, would they present that in one of these hearings?
No, it wouldn't be the right time for that.
I disagree. I think
It's not a point of contention. It's not something you can disagree with. It's a fact that you can't.
I think that they not only could do it, but they would do it. In fact, when I talked in depth with my attorney, they said that's exactly, if you had actual evidence that there was fabrications by the feds, that's exactly when you would introduce that.
So when in the document that they filed yesterday or a couple of days ago, the appropriate, like what you're doing at this stage of the hearing is the state is saying we have enough evidence that we think this needs to go forth to the trial. Hence the reason that there's this extraordinary, we allow hearsay because it doesn't really need to be perfect. It can be enough that we feel like we can move forward.
We're engaging as it's a hypothetical. If this is hypothetically true, then
so they're saying all of these charges.
I'm not disputing any of that.
So that's what you're asking. Why you're saying could they just put
what I'm asking specifically is like who could shut parents up who are like, no way. There's no.
I'm still pushing this emotional argument that I don't buy into, and let's move on from that. And we're going to get Andrew does a fact check later on here. We're going to just get into that real quick.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
To date, the state's prosecutors have disclosed all evidence that is presently and reasonably available to them as required under Rule 16, Utah R Criminal, to be more precise, as of April 1st.
Yeah.
Okay, reasonable is the all evidence that is presently and reasonably available to them. That's the key. So it wasn't all the evidence. It was just what was presently and reasonably available to them. So Andrew lost on that point. That went to Candace. Let's move on from this and go to this transcendental conversation that they had.
To the evidences that you have stated on the record, which transcend elements of reason.
Why are we having a transcendental conversation now? Because I mean,
because they're all related to this case.
Your entire thing.
For those of you that don't know, this is one of the debate tactics that Andrew has used, and I've been reviewing many of his previous debates, and he does go into this on a regular basis. This is something that he does, and Candace recognizes it immediately, and she defuses it immediately.
Was about looking at the evidence, which never made sense to me, again, because all of the evidence that you felt to be overwhelming was hearsay. That was bizarre to me.
You told me that I could take as much time as I wanted to question you on these things.
I'm just asking you just to lay the groundwork of what you're saying is
because
problematic, that
many,
you decide that it trips into something else.
Well, he said that the evidence, he believed the evidence 75 to 85%. So he has not laid the case out for that yet. He just hasn't done it. And he's really said, in my opinion, is I believe what the state is telling me. That's it. You could sum this whole 4-hour debate into those words. I believe what the state is telling me. To me, he didn't really go into any good reasons as to why we should believe the state. He just kept repeating different ways of saying, I believe the state. It's in the charging document. You know, it was presented in the prelim trial. Okay, so you believe the state. So what else? Is there anything else? And he just couldn't. To me, he fell way short of that. I'm not saying anything against Andrew as a person. I don't know him. I'm just saying what I see. That's all. I'm just kind of critiquing this debate, I guess, best I can. Okay, they start talking about the claims that Candace has made and how she hasn't really backed that up, is what he's saying. And in my opinion, he hasn't done that either, as I just said. So let's listen to that.
Evidence that the state's given, I'm just kind of not convinced. That is not what's been happening. What's actually been happening is that you've made tons of claims in regards to this case and in regards to the Kirk assassination, which are far above and beyond, I just doubt, the state's theory.
Okay, yeah, I mean, sure.
And those are
I
the
do
things
doubt. I
that
do doubt the state's theory. I also am
I get
welcome
it.
to say what I think. If you want to move into opinions, if you want to talk about Erica.
Yeah, they're supposed to be debating the substance of the topic and not really an opinion type thing, but that's really what Andrew's been giving his whole time. Candace has been spitting out facts and the points of the case, and Andrew has just pretty much been saying, well, he's been rebutting and he's been arguing against those things, but he hasn't really given anything concrete. They did talk about the backpack that they found at the scene and how it was determined to be the backpack of somebody on Charlie's detail. Therefore, it was given back to TPUSA, and that didn't make any sense because Candace was saying, well, how can they just rule out everybody? Like, nobody's ever been killed by a friend or by somebody they know. I mean, why would you just give back all this evidence, just assuming that that they don't need to look into it? That's what she's saying.
Kirk, if you want to talk about Turning Point USA,
I'd like to talk about all
and
of
get
it.
into it, I'm totally happy to do that. But I just want to say that, I do not feel, because I've said what's important to me is that we exhaust this topic first of our actual debate claims. I do not feel that you sufficiently have argued that the evidence is overwhelming.
Sorry.
Candace, question for you.
That Tyler
But I am
Robinson.
sorry you feel that way.
Candace, one question. What evidence do you need to see for you to say Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk?
That's a great question. So I actually expected in this preliminary hearing, actually, the inverse of what he was saying is true, right? So this is now the time the state is putting on their evidence. That's the purpose of this hearing, right? The state is using hearsay, but they're also putting on their evidence. So I was just expecting some sort of a slam dunk. Like, we got him on camera taking the shot. At least we have him clear on camera. You're telling me this guy drove 13 hours all around? Like, we can...
I agree. I mean, with all the cameras that they have all over UVU, are you telling me they can't come up with some better footage of him walking around with a rifle down his pants and string those videos together, showing him go up onto the roof and get into the prone position and take the shot and then run away? And where did he go? And did he stop to talk to anybody, or did he bump into somebody? Or, they just show us these little 3-second shots or clips of video or photos that are too blurry to make out anybody. And some of the photos look like different people. And it's like, what? I would have expected a lot more, a lot better than them. And I actually remember thinking that at the time. Well, we're going to get better footage, obviously, but that never happened. I mean, does that not raise any alarm bells to anyone? And then talking about the evidence in the backpack, and let's get into that.
Prosecution saying it's not them and it's not the SBI, it's the FBI that's holding on to things. As the FBI took everything. The FBI took the gun, the FBI took initially the screwdriver. And then when I heard testimony about the things that they found that were suspicious, example being the backpack, that's something that really bothers me, that they say they traced the shooter, they traced the route that he went on, and then there was an we know it looks like he's wearing some sort of a backpack. We know that there was an abandoned backpack found at the bus stop in front of a library, and they felt that this should be taken into evidence. They took it. She gets a call on the 13th, and they stop testing on this backpack because they find that the backpack actually belongs to somebody on Charlie's team. But if you know the map of the layout of the campus, you're going, well, what the hell were they doing all the way up? This is nowhere near anywhere. And by the way, that's not an acceptable answer for why you just gave it back. That's like, why would you give it back? You're acting like no one's ever been killed by somebody on their team before, right?
Yep, exactly. So good points, very good points. They talk about the artifacts that were returned, like that backpack, and there were more. And let's listen to a little bit more about those artifacts.
Some of the artifacts that Charlie was wearing were immediately returned to Erica. That's absurd. That is absurd. Everything should be in evidence. When you learn that the car that they carried Charlie in to go to the hospital, they had immediately towed, cleaned, and back up for resale, that's absurd. That should be sitting in evidence. And any police officer that you speak to will say, or a person that's been involved in a crime will say, I didn't get my stuff back for years. Erica holding the crucifix, that should be in evidence. Immediately paving over the crime scene. You immediately, and when you heard the guy who did it actually go up on a podcast and explain, I got the call, they said it was a paver emergency. That is what people are looking at and going, this is weird. He tells us the call came from the feds and the governor's office. UVUs wash their hands of it. And what he's saying sounds true, because we heard during the testimony, one person described the regions of who was in control of everything. The feds were in control of the courtyard. So in order for anybody to have paved anything, that was federal territory.
All those questions, I'm wondering to myself as I'm listening to this, does Andrew know all of these facts, or is he learning as he's hearing all this? Is he hearing it for the first time? It kind of seemed that way. It seemed like he was just now learning all this stuff. And they took a break, came back.
Yeah, so I have a bunch of questions for you, and I want to make it super painless, right? So no traps, no gotchas. I'm just going to ask them direct, and I think that as long as they're not loaded, if they're loaded, you should not respond yes or no. But as long
he wants to ask her a bunch of questions, no gotchas, no traps, but then he will soon be desperately looking for a gotcha or a trap. Once, especially after he makes that big mistake when he can't even name one single charge of against Tyler Robinson.
Okay. Anyway, so direct question, super easy. Was Lance Twiggs' DNA on the rifle, as far as you know?
We can't say that for certain.
As far as you know.
I already answered that.
Candace goes back and forth, back and forth. Candace gets annoyed at him because he's trying to pepper her with questions and put her on a time constraint, and he's, counting off with his fingers and like trying to basically bully the conversation and control it. And she won't let him. And he gets extremely flustered and frustrated when he can't do this, what he's trying to do. And it's very obvious when it's going on. Anybody that's watching this, if they're being honest, they're going to see that. Like I said, it went on for a while. It was not a short thing. They just kept going back and forth, and with these questions. And finally, as Candace admitted, Lance's DNA was not confirmed to have been on the rifle. So that answers the question, but they still do a fact check on it. And they realize that it was all for nothing. All of these 15 minutes or whatever it was that we wasted going back and forth was to prove something that Candace had already conceded. And that was that Lance's DNA was not confirmed to have been on the weapon, but it might be. It just hasn't been identified.
Go ahead.
And now you have stated multiple times that you believe that Israel's involved in the death of Charlie Kirk.
Can you give me...
Yes, we can pull up the clip. I'm sorry. I'm just saying.
Can I finish the sentence?
Go ahead.
It's an example right there of what I was talking about. I mean, he's just overbearing on the whole thing, and he's just trying to muscle her around. It's just so obvious. It really is a bad look.
We'd like to probe that narrative because what we've seen after, coming from the Israeli government, the Israeli prime minister, kind of denying that he did it, which wasn't really necessary, was quite busy. The phone call that happened, which no one wants to discuss, in the Hamptons the week prior, or not the week prior, I think it was around August 5th or 6th that took place. Mm-hmm. And again, the almost desperate lies about Charlie shifting opinion on Israel lead us to believe that there could be an Israeli angle in this. But we cannot say for certainty that Israel called the shots and this is how it happened. But it is definitively, I think, a thread that a lot of us would like to see.
There's no positive evidence.
Whatever you want to say, however, positive, negative, however you want to say it.
Well, positive evidence
I can just have
would be
a conversation.
Material evidence and other evidences, which would
what
point
we've said
you to it.
is on our show is what we said, which is this feels like a conspiracy building. There's no reason to lie about these things, and yet people are lying. BB ain't acting right. The Hamptons thing was weird, and the way they tried to shove the Israel narrative down our throat immediately. I mean, the day he died, posting a picture of him with an American and Israeli AI'd photo on the president's feed doesn't feel right. So,
do you have any evidence that Erica Kirk or TPUSA participated in the murder of Charlie Kirk?
I've never said they participated in the murder of Charlie Kirk, so how could I say that I have evidence they participated in the murder of Charlie Kirk?
Your team is sending messages in the back saying they have a video they want to play.
Okay, go ahead.
My guess is Pierre. Erica. I think that there's a reason Pierre knew that Charlie was dead first. I think there's a reason he was a priority. How? Why? I think France and Israel are involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination. And I'm going to put that out there with full confidence.
That was supposed to be the gotcha clip of the day. But she said, I think. And she's allowed to think. I think. I think that's allowed. And so that was the point that she made. And beyond that, there was no point to be made. That was it. I think. And then she gave her opinion. And that's what that was. So we're going to have to give that one to Candace as well. Andrew comes back in asking about the French Foreign Legion, which I don't even understand where this. I know maybe it's part of the whole conversation, but to reduce it to put inside of a debate like this, where you're paying $300,000 to talk to somebody about the facts, I don't think I would have brought that up. It was just unconvincing. It was confusing, I think, to a lot of people, and argumentative, and I don't know. It just didn't feel like a good place for this.
They said that the French Foreign Legion was involved and on the ground that day. I've already said that. You just don't like hearing it.
No.
Candace, just out of curiosity,
Yes.
when you pass down that message to Tulsi or Trump,
Tulsi's office, yes.
Tulsi's office, are you giving them who told you that, or you're just saying, here's what I heard from
And
somebody?
I have this. Trump's office never got back to us. It was kind of weird about, like, I don't think there was ever any investigation into what I
Got it.
said.
So the call was, hey,
And Andrew's going to say, well, how do you know they didn't investigate it? And the answer is they never contacted Candace. If they would have investigated it, they would have had to contact Candace because she had the information. So you can't investigate it if you don't have the information. She didn't give the contact information to the FBI. She told them to call her about this or email or whatever it was, and that never happened. So again, Andrew lost that point. He just seems to over and over just keep bringing up arguments as they present themselves to him. Not anything really pre-planned, in my opinion. It just seemed like it was coming out all over the place. All right, let's move on from that and talk about her sources just for a little bit here. Andrew attacked him, as we've said before, and he did it again.
If I said I have sources that claim none of that's true, in fact, my sources claim that her sources are lying. My sources claim that none of them believe that there's a conspiracy. My sources claim all of them really think that Tyler Robinson was a lone gunman. If I just said that as hypothetical, wouldn't you say, what?
Yeah, I think what probably adds weight is like then when I drop photos of the car that no one was supposed to see, people go, okay, her sources are legit.
Yeah, she's proved herself over and over again. It's not just her saying, oh, I know someone that knows something. Andrew is trying to argue using his little tricks that he does in other debates, but the point in this case is too big, and Candace has too many followers that know that she's credible because they've seen her be honest in the past. She's built up that reputation over years, and it's not something you can just say, well, some random person comes along and says, oh, I have a source and this is what they said. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing, and he lost that argument badly. Let's keep going. Andrew asks a question.
Well, I mean, aren't
evidence.
most of the people you ask questions of not actually committing crimes?
But what do you mean they should answer questions where? Like at a police station? Like
no,
what are you
just
saying?
like if you want people to come in and answer questions for you. I have questions about this in the investigation. I have questions about this. I have questions about that. You want them to answer your questions. Doesn't it seem totally fair that you answer back the questions people have for you?
Well, they're not answering our questions. So it's all...
No, they're not answering our questions. That's the whole problem. And she goes on to illustrate that. And at this point, he's arguing for the sake of arguing. Candace makes a good point about when they start talking about Erica and maybe why Erica should be in there talking instead of Andrew, that she should be in there answering questions, or maybe Andrew Colvett. Let's listen to that.
One thing, though, that I want to just directly ask you is, do you actually believe that anybody in TPUSA or Erica Kirk or Erica actually participated, had foreknowledge of, or facilitated the murder of Charlie Kirk?
I'm not going to get myself into a legal pickle here.
Two things happened in this exchange. One, I think that might have been the entire reason that Andrew was here debating this, is to get her to answer this question. Also, she managed to get in the word pickle. So pickle's been kind of a little ongoing joke, I guess, because Andrew couldn't open a pickle or an olive jar or something like that. So I don't know if she did that on purpose or not, but I think that the question that Andrew asked her was the reason, one of the main reasons why he was there, is to get her to say that. I mean, they're already lawsuit crazy over at TPUSA. They're suing everybody for anything, and I think this might have been a trap to try to get her to say something, and she didn't, of course, fall for that. Then they say they want to play a video clip after this, and let's listen to this.
Play that video.
Yeah. Could also just ask.
And so right now, their guys are going out and they're going to look for evidence. And then by May, which is fortunately around the corner, then she'll see what they found. So what the F is that performance? How could you sit up there and say, yes, I 100% believe Tyler Robinson did it? That right there is why it is impossible for me to think that Erica Kirk is not complicit somehow. Because what?
Those two thoughts actually don't even follow. How would it be the case that even if Erica Kirk did believe that Tyler Robinson was 100% responsible for the death of Charlie Kirk, let's just say she believed it with every fiber of her being, believed all the evidence, because she did. She just actually did. Would it then follow that somehow she's complicit in his death?
I didn't say implicit in death. You added those two words.
And they went back and forth for quite a while on this complicit, and it almost might have sounded like maybe she wanted to say complacent, but complicit is a completely different word, so I don't know. That's the word she used, and they went back and forth, and she never actually really said what Erica was complicit in. So that didn't really go anywhere. And Erica, we go back to Erica in the Zoom call.
Things changed for me when I saw that Zoom call. I will tell you that for sure. And the fact that she lied to me. The next thing that happens naturally when somebody lies to you, when any person lies to you, people only lie when they're trying to obscure something else.
Have you addressed what that lie was?
Yeah, I've talked about, we have a list of lies that we've been told by Charlie. We can find that, I'm sure.
In the meeting with her.
Well, no, I didn't want her to cage up. I didn't want to do this, and because I didn't know what to expect. Like I didn't know if she was going to be like, I'm so overwhelmed with everything, and I don't know who to trust at the organization, and I don't.
So she was at a different place back then, and she does address the point where Andrew called Erica retarded, and he had a very strange reaction to this.
Erica's complicit. That's my opinion. When you tweeted, Erica's too retarded to kill her husband.
Yeah.
Would you like to explain how you developed your evidence, your positive evidence for the fact that Erica was retarded?
Yeah, sure. So I just think all women are retarded.
Oh, so you're allowed to just say stuff. Who knew?
This is not the place for this weird humor that he has. He thinks he's got something, because I've heard him say this on other shows and other clips I've seen on YouTube where he's used this answer where I think all women are retarded. He thinks that's funny. This is not the time or the place, and it just makes him look ridiculous. I'm sorry. It's pathetic. And he's not winning over anybody by this weird laugh that he has, and he's going on a very serious topic and issue here, and he's calling people retarded. And we're supposed to take this seriously. We're supposed to take any of this or TPUSA seriously when they send this guy. No, it doesn't work. It falls flat, and it's not in good taste, in my opinion. I don't like it. They did talk about TPUSA a little bit.
People have been asking for, basic answers to questions, and you're saying that you walked into their headquarters and reached out, and they instantly...
It's amazing, isn't it? If you reach out in good faith and you're not demonizing them and saying that they're complicit in the murder of people's deaths, that perhaps they're actually willing to release things to you that are pertinent, other than thinking that, perhaps you're diabolical.
Well, I don't know. I feel like if I was going to release that information, I didn't demand that it be released to me. They decided to release it to a guy that called Erica too retarded in June.
So what?
Yeah, I just think it kind of shows that Turning Point is sending you as their horse.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what most people think that are looking at this thing objectively. And this went on back and forth for a while too. And, it's like it took a long time for them to get their points out. I will say that. It's a little frustrating going through trying to get a summary of this video, because it takes so long for them to say things. They started talking back and forth about the Petin and the explosives. Of course, Andrew's going to shoot that down. Let's listen.
And causing that 30-06 diameter, as would happen with a Petin explosives, as we've demonstrated to you in the past, it accidentally, because of how Charlie was crouched, went up and hit his neck. And that ruined everything. It ruined everything. It was problematic. It's the reason why Terrell then had to scramble to get the cameras down, because they were never supposed to see it. They could have said reasonably that a 30-06 got eaten by Charlie, much more reasonably, obviously, than saying that the chicken bones in his neck stopped it because he ate vegetables.
Okay, so yeah, the clips that they brought, I don't know what exactly they were trying to prove, but I don't think they did what they were supposed to. And Andrew asks another question.
Do you think that your alternative theory?
I think John Bray's theory should be explored. Yes.
Okay. Do you think that Charlie Kirk was killed with an explosive?
I think that is a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
And it
good.
should.
He's trying to nail her down on things. They talk about Rob O'Neill and that whole thing that we know about already. I'm not going to break that down for you. Then they go to break.
Okay.
I've already conceded that.
Sure.
So
that's fine. And then the last one is one with Erica Kirk.
Sure. This is like the Erica Kirk. All right, Erica. You could just sit down with me, Erica, but we can do it this way.
This goes back to a previous claim that you made.
Yeah,
by
sure.
Bringing it up.
Straight to jail. For questioning, at least, Erica. I don't care who's mad. I really do not care who wants to be upset after this episode. Really,
$200.
Yes, it's obviously tongue in cheek. And then we explain that actually I think that she should be brought in for questioning because of inconsistencies. So this is the exact episode when I started to think that she should be sat down and questioned. And I still believe that. I still hold the perspective that Erica should be sat down and she should be properly questioned.
Do you know that she hasn't been?
No, actually, that would be a great thing for the spokesperson of Turning Point USA to say that she's already sat through.
Why?
So he's like, "Why? How do you know she hasn't been questioned?" It's like, well, okay, that it's pretty common sense if they gave all the stuff back to her that she's not a suspect.
Yeah, if your
you're just
entire
kind of filling the air
if your entire thing is
junk.
No, it's not junk. If the query is why is it that Erica Kirk's not being sat down for questioning, but you have absolutely no knowledge whether or not she's been sat down for questioning or not, what that does is it creates an innuendo.
He's just arguing for the sake of arguing. They talk about Lance Twig's DNA and on being on the rifle, not being on the rifle. Again, they talked about this before, the specific charges as well.
Beginning of the
we should show that text message that you read just because I think that's important for the public. You shared it out of context.
I'll do it on my
Then they start talking about the text message that Andrew shared at the beginning of the show, and they ask him if he'll share it.
In playing that, is there any more? I'm happy to play every clip that he has on the ready. Anybody?
You said you had some new evidence at the beginning of the.
We should show that text message that you read just because I think that's important for the public. You shared it out of context.
I'll do it on my show. I'll share the text.
So you're going to read it on my show, but not show it.
Correct.
Okay.
So I'll show it on my show, but that's what I'll do. I'll show it on my.
Can I ask why?
Well, because I want to drip out the evidence. That's got to.
He's trying to be clever, and it really doesn't work. Now they talk about the charges. They go into that whole thing where he couldn't list one single charge. I'm not going to play that again because that was in Friday's show, and I'm trying to focus on the things that we didn't cover. And what I didn't cover on Friday was the fact that he accused her of cheating directly after that. And that is a big deal because when you're losing a debate such as he was, it really shows poor sportsmanship when you then accuse the other person of cheating. Somehow she knew all 7 charges because she was cheating and somebody told her the answers. Why his mind goes there, I don't know, but let's take a listen.
Yeah. So 5-6, tampering witness, 3rd-degree felony. Now, I did notice something I just was curious about. I'm just wondering.
Now, he's hurting really badly because he just got shown to the world that he doesn't know what he's talking about. And Candace does. I mean, that's what that shows. He didn't know the case, couldn't name a single charge. And now he's really hurting and he's flailing and frustrated.
When you pulled out your phone just before you asked that question, did somebody by chance text you that question?
You can check my phone.
I'm just curious.
No, you can absolutely not. I didn't.
It shows the character. It just shows his character. It shows where his mind is at and what. I think we all know the kind of person that he is. The person that can't stand to lose at a card game or, any game really, and that can't be wrong ever. This person cannot be wrong. And when he is, it hurts so badly that he's just grasping at anything that he possibly can to try to make her look bad. And now after he accuses her of cheating, they go into topics that were already covered, such as the receipt at Cowboy Steakhouse that supposedly Tyler Robinson had gone to. And he questions her all over about that. And again, he's doing this to try to distance himself from this horrible, horrible moment because the debate was supposed to be over at this point when he did this. And then he accused her of cheating, hoping that he could catch her in something desperate. and he didn't. So he goes on with this. They go into the. I'll let you listen to the rest of this little part here, and then I'll summarize the rest.
I have not had one communication with a single person, not even my producers who are in there this whole time we were here. You want to check my phone? I'm happy to do it. Take it.
Let's see
See
it.
if anyone was texted at all during this debate.
You're okay. You're giving me permission.
Yes.
I'm just going to read 3 of them
Yes.
to 1132 because after that, I don't need to read it.
And you know their texts. Could have been Telegram, could have been something
All
like
I
that.
have is Signal.
Wow.
You can check that too. I only have
Does he not know that the whole world is watching? I mean, does he not realize?
Signal. Telegram I used in Russia, and that was a download for
I'll
Russia.
take your word for it.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to take her word for it. She just proved him wrong again. That's amazing. It's almost unbelievable to watch it in real time. So they go through that whole thing, and then he does go into this long thing trying to draw it out. He doesn't want to end on a bad note. You can't end on this note in his mind. He knows how this works, and if he ends the debate right there, he knows he's toast. He was toast anyway because nobody's going to forget that. But he just tried to make himself feel a little better. He was desperately trying to catch her in a gotcha. They went through all the receipts of the Cowboy Steakhouse, and also, she was pointing out the fact that he really didn't know the trial. And he was saying that, him and his attorney had sat down and listened to the trial. Let's listen to that.
Wait, you think
I'm calling owners of
do you know
steakhouses
that-
and having a
wait,
conversation. You're following Congo on
I
X.
literally followed the entire trial or the preliminary live. I was live with an attorney. We covered all of it. You think because I have a momentary lapse where I'm like, oh, it's murder? No, it's aggravated murder. Come on.
You didn't know any of the
That's
charges.
splitting
No,
hairs.
that's not splitting.
No,
It means you
it's not.
didn't follow the preliminary hearing at all.
No, it doesn't mean
You
that
don't
at
know
all.
any of
That's
the charges that are
ridiculous.
against him. When this is like getting literally to the crux, aggravated murder versus murder.
It's
a
ridiculous.
death sentence.
And not only that, let's point this out. One of the major things here is that this is your official timeline.
Mine.
Yes. Who else is going to be?
It's not. It's falling flat. All of it is falling flat. He's already, the damage is done. At this point, there's no turning back. The damage is done. And so they go through this a little bit more, just stretching on things that have already been talked about, and they get into their final answers. And then Andrews will start. I'll just play a brief clip of his.
Yeah, she had nothing. Just nothing. For all of her claims of Patsy, nothing. She didn't have a single claim. She didn't have a single.
Okay, he just keeps saying the same thing over and over and over again. She had nothing. She had nothing. She had nothing. Kind of like the debate where he was just saying the evidence is overwhelming because I believe the state. That was it. That's all I heard. So maybe there were little tiny details here and there that he dropped, but nothing convincing to me. Let me know what you guys think about that. Candace's quick ending statement.
Candace.
Well, I think that is quite a conclusion. Admitting somewhere maybe we stalemated, it probably signifies what I've been saying from the beginning, that you didn't feel that you were strong on the actual facts and the evidence, which I was willing to engage with you. I wanted to go over the screwdriver. I wanted to go over the towel and things that you've mentioned, and you wanted to then move the conversation into a defense of Erica Kirk and her character.
So this is how she ended hers, and I got to agree with it. So there were so many comments on on Friday's video that I really got a sense of how everybody feels about this debate. And I have to agree with the majority of the comments that Candace definitely won this debate. And Andrew, he hasn't made this his whole life for the past 10 months. So of course he's not going to know all the details that she knows. But if you're going to pay somebody $300,000 and you're going to go in on her show and, in front of all your fans too, and you're going to argue this thing, you better darn well know the charges and at least the basics. He says he sat down with an attorney and they watched the prelim trial. I don't know what they were watching, but I don't think they were paying attention. So that's just how I think about this. And I appreciate all the comments and all the likes and interaction that I had on the last video. I'd appreciate it if you give this video a like also and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I will be doing many more videos like this, and I like to cover this kind of thing that gets people talking and interacting, and you'll see a lot more of that content on my channel. So if you'd like to get a hold of me, I'm at jptruthprobe@gmail.com, or you can go on X and find me at jptruthprobe. And I look forward to talking to you, and I appreciate you watching this video. Have a great day, Stay clean, stay safe, stay sober. I'll see you in the next video.